Sarah Lacy is here to explain and give us a sneak preview into what is next for her. Welcome to Bloomberg.
You guys are
great to have you on the show.
Thank you, and you guys are very sneaky as a reporter. I appreciate it. I keep telling you I'm not going to say what I'm doing next, but you keep saying I am.
We do our research. Well, first, let's take a step back. When AOL took over TechCrunch, what changed? Did things change?
I have to say, the night before Mike sold, I was on the phone with him pleading not to sell. And I'm a very unemotional person. My husband will tell you it was one of the only nights of our 12-year relationship I've been up all night crying. I begged Mike not to sell this company. And the reason why was it didn't have anything to do with AOL. It had to do with something you know when you've been around Silicon Valley for a decade, and that's that companies change when they get acquired. Now, that having been said, it went better than I expected it would have for the first year. But, you know, we were promised editorial independence, and that's a funny thing. Once you cross that line, it's very hard to pull it back.
Now, this fall, as you put it, all hell broke loose. Arrington left, MG Siegler left, Paul Carr.
Arrington was kicked out, to be fair.
He
didn't leave.
Out.
Like, that was part of the issue.
He was ousted. How do you see that impacting the quality at TechCrunch? Can TechCrunch continue to be TechCrunch?
Well, you know, I think yes and no. I mean, TechCrunch is something that's bigger than one person, and that was everyone's goal. That was certainly Heather Hardy's goal in being the CEO of this company, was to build something bigger than one person. And, you know, you can see it is still the premier technology site now. So I think to a point, we've all failed if TechCrunch falls apart because a couple people leave. On the other hand, I think any media property, especially a blog, is so dominated by its core voices. In any startup, you know, the founder really is the one who sets the tone for the culture, and I think that's more pronounced in something that's about content and about opinion and about news. And I think even if we had been able to do the kind of succession planning that TechCrunch had been planning, that we wanted to do before all this happened, it would be a different property with Mike going on to primarily be an investor and not being the day-to-day editor. It would have been different anyway, but certainly with being ousted and so many big voices leaving, there's no way it's the same property.
So you've had a couple of weeks to think about it now. Why did you leave, and how are you feeling about it?
Well, I had 2 months to think about it. I mean, I basically was going into labor as this was happening with my first baby. You know, came out of labor, and there things that happened.
Congratulations, by the way, on the baby.
I had about 4 days off before I think I had my first call with Ariana, trying to figure out what happened next. So, you know, I had about 2 months to think about it. It was a really hard decision. You know, TechCrunch is the premier technology brand. I've never written for anything else that has the kind of impact around the world and entrepreneurs that TechCrunch had. And, you know, leaving that was not a light decision, even with the changes.
So while you were away having your baby, Eric Schoenfeld was named editor, and you wrote, "When I came out of the labor and delivery room the next day, I discovered a job Mike and I had talked for years about me doing had been given to someone else."
Right.
How do you feel about the way all of that
Very
happened?
carefully worded, isn't it? It's impossible not to feel emotional about the whole thing. You know, Mike and I talked about, he tried to get me to come to TechCrunch for a long time before I did. We talked a lot, you know, the whole time I was there about what my role in the site would be. And a lot of that, frankly, was Mike trying to convince me to take over as the editor after him. You know, he felt like, you know, we didn't agree on everything, but we agreed on a lot of the important things. And, you know, not to take anything away from Eric, but, you know, at a gut level, the editor of TechCrunch has to be in Silicon Valley. You know, even if you agreed nothing else, you know, would have put me over him in that job.
So, do you think that there could be legal ramifications here?
Not on my part. I mean, I have no intention to do anything like that. There was nothing in writing. I don't feel like I was wronged. I think on a certain level, look, there was a crisis situation. I understand why Ariana did what she had to do. I don't think she was fully aware of the situation, of what Mike and I had discussed. They spent many months trying to make it up to me. They, you know, offered me lots of very nice things to stay. I'm not leaving feeling like I'm leaving feeling like it was a bad situation, and, you know, I'm kind of making the best of it.
Now, you haven't said explicitly what you're doing next, but you are going to give us some details. Give us an idea of what you'll be doing next, and what you're ready to talk about.
Well, I mean, the one thing that I'll say is I am going to continue to be a reporter in this space, and I'm going to continue to write in this space. I think with Mike and MG leaving to, you know, to go BVCs, and with Paul leaving to go start a new company, everyone suddenly thinks that, you know, the hot new thing is to go be a VC or start a company. I mean, you know, some people just love being reporters, and I'm one of them. I love writing about startups. I'll continue doing that.
So you're not going to the Crunch Fund? What about Uncrunched?
Uncrunched is a one-person vanity blog.
All right. Last question. Overall, do you think that AOL's sort of strategy of acquiring these hot media properties, is that backfiring?
I think the problem is, and if you can point the finger at one person in this whole mess, which didn't have to happen, to me, it stops with the CEO. You've got to point the finger at Tim Armstrong, not because he's a bad guy and he so botched this, but when you acquire in huge personalities like Arianna Huffington and Michael Arrington, and their value add has been those huge personalities, you got to know how to work those personalities and make them play nice together. And ultimately, to me, that's where he failed.
Well, we will be watching. TechCrunch has hired some new writers recently, and we will stay posted. Sarah Lacy, thanks so much for joining us, and congratulations on your baby and wherever you do end up.
Thank
next.
you.